I was working at a train station in Germany when an American guy came up to me, completely stressed out. He had been standing at the ticket machine for 20 minutes. 20 minutes! He looked at me and said, "This thing won't work. I put in my card 4 times. I need to speak to someone who speaks English." I looked at the machine. It said English right at the top. The entire interface was in English. He had been using the German version the whole time, pressing buttons randomly. When I clicked it over to English, it took him 30 seconds to buy his ticket. He looked embarrassed for like half a second, then just said, "Well, that machine is confusing," and left. That's the thing about Americans abroad. We panic fast, really fast. The second something doesn't look exactly like home, our brains just kind of shut down, and we assume the problem is everyone else. I worked at a hostel in Barcelona for 2 years, and I heard this so many times. Why doesn't anyone here speak English? From people literally inside a hostel run by local Spanish people in Spain. One guy asked me where the bathroom was. I pointed. He said, "No, like, where's the normal one?" I said, "That is the normal one." He went in, came back out, and said, "Why is the toilet so small?" It was a standard European toilet. He had just never seen one that wasn't American-sized. Another time, I was at a cafe in Paris with my friend Sarah when an older American woman came in. She sat down and immediately started complaining about everything. The table was tiny. The chairs didn't match. There was no ice in her water. The menu was all in French. She actually said out loud, "Don't these people know we speak English?" But here's the wild part. She had chosen to go to Paris. Nobody forced her. She had spent money to be there. But instead of trying to engage with the place, she spent the whole meal angry that Paris wasn't America, with better museums. The cafe owner, this sweet older French man, came over and asked if everything was okay. She told him his portions were too small. He said, "In France, we believe in quality, not quantity." She said, "Well, in America, we believe in value." He just looked at her and walked away. I think she thought she had won that argument. The funny thing is, most Americans aren't bad travelers. They're just defensive. The second something goes wrong or feels different, we assume we've been wronged somehow. We forget that we're the ones who chose to leave home. I think it's because America is huge. Everything works kind of the same way no matter where you go. Your plug works the same in Florida as it does in California. The toilets are the same size. The roads follow the same logic. So when you leave America and suddenly nothing works the same way, instead of thinking, "Oh, this is how other countries do it," we think, "This is broken and weird." That's where all these stories come from. Not from people being stupid, just from people being so used to one system that they panic when it changes. And panic makes for really funny situations. Let me tell you about what happened to my cousin in Italy. My cousin Michael went to Italy for 2 weeks. He's a smart guy. He works in finance. But the second he landed in Rome, something switched off in his brain. He called me in full panic mode from the airport. "Dude, I can't find my taxi. I don't know where to go. Everyone here is just shouting at each other. I think there's a problem." I said, "Michael, you're in Rome. Everyone's always shouting. It's fine." He said, "No, I think something's wrong. There's no line for taxis. It's just chaos." I had to explain to him that in Italy, there isn't really a line system like at American airports. You just kind of cluster by the taxi stand. There's no organization. It stresses Americans out so much. We're used to systems, lines, order. When we don't have it, we assume the situation is falling apart. He finally got a taxi and made it to his hotel. Then he called me again. "The hotel wants me to pay cash right now." They're asking for the full amount. Is that a scam? I said, no, that's how Europe works. They verify your card, then you pay when you leave. Or you pay now, your choice. He paid right away because he was terrified. Paid in cash. Didn't need to. The hotel would have been fine either way. But his brain was in panic mode, so he made the choice that would make him stop feeling scared, the fastest. Then came the tipping thing. He went to dinner that night, and the bill came. He looked at it and called me again. I know, because my phone just kept ringing. The bill is 17 euros. The menu said 18 euros for the pasta. Did they mess up? Did you order anything else? Just water. Water's 1 euro. Why would they charge for water? Water is free. I had to explain that in Europe, water isn't automatically free. You get tap water for free if you ask for water from the tap. But if you order water, even bottled water, they charge you a couple euros. It's normal. It's not a scam. It's just how they run restaurants. His brain was so fried from traveling that a 1 euro charge on his bill seemed suspicious. My friend Lisa went to Amsterdam and had a total meltdown at the train station. She was trying to figure out how to get a train ticket. The machine had options: single ticket, day pass, week pass, point-to-point, zone system. She just stared at it. Full panic. She's a doctor. She handles life and death situations. But a Dutch train ticket machine made her so anxious, she actually left and took a taxi instead. The taxi cost her 45 euros. A train ticket would have been 4 euros. That's what panic does. It makes us spend money to avoid discomfort. I went to the cafe with her later, and she ordered coffee. The barista asked if she wanted it normal or cappuccino. In the Netherlands, normaal means an espresso with just a tiny bit of milk. She didn't know that word. She panicked. She thought cappuccino meant the same thing everywhere. So she ordered a cappuccino, thinking she was playing it safe. She got served a full, massive cappuccino like you'd get in Italy or America. She'd expected a small coffee. She drank the entire thing because she was too embarrassed to ask what happened. She was awake until 3 a.m. that night. My cousin went to London and had an actual panic attack at the grocery store. Not a real panic attack, but close. He couldn't find the milk. American grocery stores are huge and organized by type. You know where to go. British supermarkets are laid out differently. The milk was in a different aisle than he expected. He walked the whole store looking for it. Walked past it 3 times. Finally asked an employee. She pointed and said, "It's right there, mate." It was a normal milk aisle. He just wasn't used to that layout. But instead of thinking, "Oh, different country, different layout," he thought, "This store is poorly organized. Everyone here is confused about how to run a store." He bought milk, went back to his hotel, and texted me. British stores are chaos. The thing is, people in Britain understand their own stores just fine. They navigate them every day. It's not that the store is bad. It's that my cousin was used to a different system. And different isn't better or worse. It's just different. My mom went to Spain and tried to order orange juice at a cafe. The barista didn't understand her. She got louder. Orange juice. Seeters. The barista tried to help, but couldn't figure it out. My mom finally left without ordering anything. She was so frustrated. She called me and said, "These people really need to learn English. It's one of the most common drinks." Turns out, in Spain, if you want orange juice, you ask for zumo de naranja. You don't ask for orange juice. That's not rude or weird or confusing. That's just how Spanish works. The words for food are different in different languages. That's kind of the whole thing about languages. My mom didn't think about it like that. She thought the barista should just know the English words for drinks. She panicked at the miscommunication and turned it into a complaint about Spanish people instead of thinking, "Oh, I'm in Spain. I should use Spanish words." I had a friend visit me in Vienna. On the first day, he got on a streetcar and the doors closed and he had a panic attack. A real one. He started shaking. He didn't know how to open the doors. In Vienna, you push a button or press a door panel to open the streetcar doors. If you don't know where it is, you're stuck inside until the next stop. He didn't panic about being stuck on a streetcar. He panicked because he didn't know what to do, and that felt out of control. The second the doors opened at the next stop, he got off and took a taxi instead. He spent the whole trip taking taxis around Vienna because the public transportation made him feel out of control. He was paying 15 euros per ride when he could have figured out a button in 30 seconds. That's panic. That's what happens when Americans get outside their system. We don't get curious. We get scared. And we spend money to make the fear go away fast. Let me tell you about my roommate, Derek. He went to Germany to visit his girlfriend. He's lived in America his whole life. He's a mechanic. He knows how to fix cars, which requires metric understanding. But somehow, when he got to Germany, all his knowledge disappeared. He went to a supermarket and saw a sign. Milk, 1.5 liters for 2,50. He texted me, "Is that a good price?" He couldn't convert liters to gallons in his head. He just stood there, confused, trying to figure out if he was being ripped off. A liter is about a quart, so a liter and a half is like just over a quart and a half. It's a small amount. But he couldn't do the math, so he didn't know if he was being scammed. He just didn't buy milk. The whole trip. He went to a country with excellent dairy and bought zero milk because he couldn't figure out the size. My friend Tom went to Canada and had a full breakdown about the temperature. He was packing for a trip and saw it would be 18 degrees. He packed shorts and a t-shirt. It was 18 degrees Celsius. That's about 64 degrees Fahrenheit. It's cold. He was wearing summer clothes in moderate cold weather and genuinely angry that Canadians don't understand temperature. Canada wasn't wrong. Tom was just used to Fahrenheit, saw a number, and didn't think about the context. I went to the UK for the first time and couldn't figure out which side of the road cars were on. I knew logically that they drive on the left, but every time I tried to cross the street, my body wanted to look left first, because that's what I'm used to. I almost got hit by a car twice because my American instincts kicked in. I wasn't in danger because British people are bad drivers. I was in danger because I was expecting an American system in a place that didn't have it. And instead of slowing down and being careful, I was frustrated that things were different. A guy I know went to Australia and ordered a small coffee. The barista asked, "Do you want a short, a long, or an Americano?" In Australia, they don't really have a small. They have short espresso drinks, long espresso drinks, or Americanos. He panicked at the options and just said, "The normal one." The barista gave him a long black, which is like an Americano. He drank it and said, "Australian coffee culture is too complicated." It's not complicated. There are just more words for different things. He could have asked what each option was. Instead, he decided Australian coffee was confusing and spent the rest of the trip getting instant coffee from his hotel room. My cousin went to Japan and couldn't figure out the train system. This is fair, actually. Japanese trains are complicated. But instead of looking at a map or asking for help, he went full panic mode. He was supposed to meet a friend in Shibuya. He was in Shinjuku. These are different neighborhoods in Tokyo. He looked at the train map and couldn't parse it. So instead of asking literally anyone, he decided the train system was broken and took a taxi across Tokyo. He paid something like $90 for a taxi ride that would have been $2 on the train. The taxi driver was probably confused about why an American man was so panicked about taking the train. My friend Rachel went to France and had a complete meltdown about the date system. She saw a date written as 12 Ivers Fine 2024. In America, that's December 5th. In Europe, that's May 12th. She got confused and thought she missed her flight by 6 months. She called the airport in full panic. They looked at the date and confirmed she was on time. She had flown there. The flight hadn't happened yet, but she panicked because the number order was different than she expected. I went to Germany and tried to understand the dress code system. In America, if you go to a restaurant and it says casual, you can wear whatever. If it says business casual, you wear a button-up shirt. If it says formal, you wear a suit. In Germany, they don't really use those terms. The expectation is just that you're clean and wearing real clothes. There's not a specific system. I spent like an hour trying to figure out what to wear to dinner because the restaurant's website didn't specify a dress code. An American would see that and think, this restaurant is disorganized and confusing. I think about it now and realize it's actually simpler. You just look nice, that's it. No system, no rules. Just don't show up in pajamas. But I was so used to having a system that I panicked when there wasn't one. My coworker James went to Denmark and tried to figure out the tipping system. In Denmark, you usually don't tip. You just pay the bill. It's included in the price already. He went to a restaurant, got the bill, and thought the server didn't tell him about the tip. He tried to add a tip to his card. The server was confused. He tried to explain that he wanted to tip extra for good service. The server didn't really know what to do. Tipping isn't how their system works. He already gets paid a fair wage. There's no need for tip-subsidized income. James decided Danes were rude and ungrateful for not accepting his tip. He didn't realize that his tip was actually an insult to their system of fair wages. He was trying to do a good thing, but he was doing it based on American logic, not Danish logic. My friend went to Sweden and got very upset about the water. Swedish tap water is some of the best in the world. Free, delicious, clean. He got mad because the cafe charged him €2 for a bottle of water when tap water was available for free. He said, "This is ridiculous. They're trying to rip off tourists." They weren't. They were offering a choice. He could have asked for tap water. He chose to be angry instead of curious. I think the core of this is that Americans are used to having systems, and those systems make us feel in control. When we leave America and the systems change, we lose that sense of control. And instead of adapting, we panic. We get frustrated. We assume the other place is wrong. But here's the thing. Other countries aren't wrong. They're just different. And different systems work fine for the people who live in them every day. We just have to accept that we're the ones who don't understand. Not that everyone else is confused. I was at a gym in Berlin when an American guy came in during quiet hours. Most European gyms have a quiet hour in the morning. People are there to work out, not to socialize. You don't talk. You don't turn up the music. You just train. This American guy started blasting his music from a speaker, just playing loud hip-hop. Everyone looked at him. The gym staff looked at him. He was completely oblivious. The staff came over and told him to turn it off. He said, "It's a gym. Gyms have music." They said, "During quiet hours, no." He said, "You should have told me." But they had. There was a sign at the entrance. In English, it said, "Quiet hours 6 to 9 a.m. No music. No talking." He didn't read the sign because he assumed every gym works the same way as an American gym. And instead of reading the rules, he just did what he would do at home. When he was told to follow the rules, he got defensive instead of apologetic. My friend went to a hostel in Amsterdam and left his shoes on inside the dormitory room. The roommate said something. He got mad. He said, "I'm clean. My shoes are clean." That's not the point. In most of Europe, you don't wear shoes indoors. It's not about cleanliness. It's about respect for shared space. Your shoes have been on the dirty ground all day. Why would you bring that to where people sleep? He didn't see it that way. He saw a rule and decided the rule was stupid instead of just following it. I was at a library in Vienna when an American tourist started taking pictures. Loud flash photography. The librarian told him he couldn't take pictures. He said, "Why not? It's public." Public doesn't mean you can do whatever you want in a space. A library is quiet. It's for studying. Flash photography is disruptive. That's not a weird rule. That's just common sense for a library. But he didn't think about the other people there. He thought about what he wanted to do and assumed he had the right to do it. My brother went to Norway and wore shorts to dinner. It was chilly outside, but he wore shorts indoors where it was warm. The restaurant wasn't fancy, but there was a casual dress code. Pants were expected. Nobody said anything to him, but people definitely noticed. He was underdressed. After dinner, he asked the waiter about it. The waiter said, "In Norway, we dress up a bit more, even for casual places." My brother got offended. He said, "Shorts are fine. It's weird to care about that." To him, caring about how you dress was uptight. To Norwegians, dressing nicely for dinner was just showing respect for the occasion and the restaurant. Neither is right or wrong, but he couldn't accept that different places have different norms. I went to a train in Italy and saw people just kind of clustered on the platform. No line, no order. I asked a local where the line was. He said, "There is no line. We just board when the train opens." So I stood there, and when the doors opened, everyone kind of rushed on. It's chaos if you're used to American boarding, where you wait in a single-file line. But once I stopped expecting a line and just went with the flow, it was fine. The train still left on time. Everyone got a seat or a spot to stand. It just looked disorganized because I was expecting an American system. My coworker went to Spain and complained about the dinner time. Dinner is late in Spain, like 9 or 10 p.m. She went to a restaurant at 7 p.m. and thought it wasn't open yet. The staff looked at her and said they weren't serving dinner. She had to come back at 9. She decided Spanish people were ridiculous for eating so late. She didn't think about the fact that they have a different schedule. Lunch is at 2. Dinner is at 9. It works for them because that's how their day is structured. She just assumed American timing was normal and Spanish timing was weird. I went to Germany and tried to have a conversation with a cashier. I said, "How's your day?" She said, "Fine," and that was it. She wasn't being rude. She was just being professional. In Germany, you don't chat with cashiers. You do your business and leave. I tried again. "Nice weather today?" She looked at me and said, "Yes." I felt like she was mad at me, but she wasn't. She was just following her cultural norm of not making small talk with strangers. It's not cold. It's just different. In America, we chat with strangers constantly. We ask how they're doing. We make comments about the weather. We treat every transaction as a chance to have a human moment. In a lot of Europe, that's not the norm. They keep it professional and efficient. Both systems work. But I kept interpreting her professionalism as coldness. My mom went to a train in France and someone told her to move her bag off the seat. She was mad. She said, "There are plenty of seats." The person said, "Those seats are for people who are standing. In France, you don't put your bag on a seat if someone is standing. It's basic respect. Your bag doesn't need a seat. A person might." My mom thought this was rude. She thought the person was being snippy with her, but they were just following a normal social rule that she didn't know about. I went to a cafe in Austria and tried to sit at a table that wasn't marked for customers. The waiter said I couldn't sit there. I said, "Why not?" "It's empty," he said. "That table is reserved." I said, "For who?" "It's empty." He said, "It's marked for staff." I didn't see any marking. But apparently, there was an understanding among the cafe workers about which tables were for which purpose. It wasn't something I would know as a stranger. I could have been annoyed, but instead, I just sat somewhere else. Easy. But Americans often get defensive in situations like that. We see a rule and think, "This doesn't make sense to me, so it's a bad rule." We don't think, I don't understand this system, so I should follow it and learn why it exists. That's the panic. We panic when we don't understand, and panic makes us defensive, and defensive makes us angry, and angry makes us leave bad reviews and complain to other tourists about how weird and rude everyone is. But really, we're just refusing to adapt. Here's the thing about Americans abroad. We're not bad people. We're not stupid. We're just really used to one system. And when that system changes, our brains shut down. We panic because we lose control. And Americans love control. We like knowing the rules. We like knowing what to expect. We like being able to predict what's going to happen next. Other countries don't operate on that same level of predictability. Things are messier. Systems are different. Rules aren't always written down. You have to figure things out as you go. For some people, that's exciting. For a lot of Americans, it's terrifying. I have another friend, David, who went to Portugal. He had the same panic issues that everyone else does. He couldn't figure out the train system. He didn't understand the tipping culture. He got stressed about ordering coffee. But here's what he did differently. Instead of avoiding these situations, he just kind of accepted that he didn't understand. And he asked people for help. He asked a local how to use the train. The local explained it. He learned. He didn't panic about the 5 minutes he wasted not understanding. He just moved on. He asked a waiter about tipping. The waiter explained it. He understood. He left no tip and didn't feel bad about it. He asked a barista what different coffee drinks were. The barista explained it. He ordered a coffee and enjoyed it. By the end of his trip, he wasn't panicking anymore. He had adapted. The difference isn't intelligence. The difference is willingness. He was willing to accept that he didn't know, ask for help, and move on. A lot of Americans can't do that. We interpret not knowing as a personal failure, so we get defensive and angry instead of curious. My last story is about my cousin Maria. She went to Japan for a month. She didn't speak Japanese. She had never been to Asia. She was nervous, but she went anyway. On her first day in Tokyo, she got on the wrong train. She ended up in a random neighborhood, completely lost. She could have panicked, could have taken a taxi home, could have complained about how confusing the system is. Instead, she showed her hotel address to a random person on the street. The person helped her figure out how to get home. She got home, laughed about the mistake, and went back out the next day. By the end of the month, she could navigate Tokyo pretty well. She knew how to order food. She understood the train system. She made friends with locals. She wasn't special. She didn't have some unique talent for travel. She just decided to accept that she didn't understand and be curious instead of defensive. That's the difference between Americans who panic abroad and Americans who adapt. It's not about the destination. It's about the mindset. So if you're planning a trip somewhere, remember this. You're going to be confused. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to not understand things. And that's okay. That's the whole point of traveling. It's not about feeling in control. It's about learning how other people live. It's about expanding your understanding of the world. It's about accepting that your way isn't the only way. And sometimes, someone else's way actually makes sense. You just have to stop panicking long enough to see it. Anyway, these stories never stop coming. Every trip, every traveler, someone's learning something the hard way. And that's what makes